A while back, I made a video, Susie Orman's 3% versus Dave Ramsey's 8% withdrawal rule. Boy, have I got some interesting responses. But the one that kind of intrigued me was somebody said, well, isn't sequence of returns risk rare? In other words, it doesn't happen that often. So what I've got before you is the returns for the last 100 years. And here's what sequence of returns risk actually means. It means when you first retire, if you just have some down years, it can put you in danger of running out of money a lot sooner than you might plan on, or you'd have to drastically cut back on how much you were planning on taking out. For example, if you have returns like 2000 and your nest egg is down 9%, down 11%, down 22%, what else is also happening? You're taking your monthly expenses out of your nest egg. That's knocking it down even farther to the point where you actually might be running out of money or having to cut drastically back. Let's just give you some numbers because that's what we do in this channel. We run numbers for people. Let's say you retire, you have 600,000 and your monthly expenses, you figure you need 4,000 a month. You can't cut back much on that, which some people say just cut back, but that's kind of what you're planning on. That's kind of what you need. What is $4,000 on 600,000? That's an 8% withdrawal rate. Let's run the numbers for every single year for the last 100 years and see how many times you might run into a problem where you would have to cut back drastically in some cases. How many times? Look at this. 33% of the time, if you didn't cut back on this 4,000, you would run out of money in the last 100 years. This is the actual graph. Back in the Depression years, people say, well, that was a long time ago. But as recently as 1973 and 74, you would have had problems in the 1960s. But even more recently, you would have problems in the year 2000, 1998 to like 2002. Why? Because we had these 3 down years we mentioned earlier. So what's the answer? The answer is sequence of returns risk. Yeah, it's a problem if you're taking out 8%. Now, if you cut that down to like 4%, we've seen in other videos, you don't have any problems. But that's why people were so vehement attacking Dave Ramsey on his 8% rule, because you could run out of money a lot more than you might think. Even though it doesn't look like we have consecutive down years very often, it doesn't have to happen initially. It can be in the let's just look at the year 1994. Let's just go down here. That's probably the best way to do it. Here's these 3 down years. If you retired had returns like 1994, no problem. This is a summary box right here. Look at 1995. Summary box, even better. You got 1.451 million after 96. No problem. You're getting low after 25 years, down to 54,000. Watch what happens in 1997. You're actually running out of money. You're actually running out of money in 20 years. Why? Because, yeah, you have some really good returns. Then you have these 3 down years, and this down 37% didn't help either. So people say, well, you wouldn't leave it all in the S&P 500, which I agree. Let's do a 70-30 split and see what happens then. See if these numbers change much. Okay, right now you're running out of money in 20 years in 1997 returns. You go to a 60-40 split, you're actually running out of money sooner. You're running out of money in 18 years. What about 1998? Leaving it all in there, you're running out of money in 15 years. Doing a 60-40 split. What do we mean by 60-40? Leaving 60% in the S&P 500, 40% going over some bucket that's more liquid that you can take this 48,000 out of when the market's going down. You're still running out of money in 16 years. In fact, you're running out of money 33% of the time in the last 100 years. In other words, this changing your asset allocation doesn't really help you because you're taking out too much. Because if this bucket's only paying you, for example, 3%, and you're taking out 8%, with the stock market going down, you're just going to run out of money, and that's what the numbers show. So it's not just those initial years. It's if you have these string of down years about anywhere in here. Let's just keep going. 1999, running out of money. 14 years. Let's keep going. Again, this is recent. Some people say, well, you got to look at recent numbers. Okay, year 2000, you're running out of money in 13 years. 2001, again, this is with a 60-40 split. Running out of money in 13 years. 2002, it's getting a little bit better. 2003. But what's happening? We're coming up on another down right here. So it's not just starting out. You could have some really good years when you first retire, and yet if you have a down 37%, and you're taking out 8%, the market's just going to be knocked down so low that you won't be able to come back. So people say, well, take less out. Well, maybe $3,000 a month, but that's no longer 8%. That's now 6%. That was a debate whether Dave Ramsey's 8% rule was going to work. Another thing you could do is cut back to 3,000. Again, you're planning on 4,000 a month. That'd be kind of, but also take less of a cola. Then your money might last a little bit longer. Let's just see how this affects this right here. You're taking out 6%, not 8%. You're cutting your cola from 3% down to 2%, and you're doing a 60-40 split. Now you're down to 7%, which is a lot more doable. You can live with that kind of a risk, but can you really live with a 33% chance of failure with the 8% withdrawal rule? I just wanted to cover this because I was getting interesting responses. People were saying, well, just cut back. Well, how easy would it be to cut back from 4,000 to 3,000? Uh, anyway, I just wanted to run the numbers. That's what we do on this channel. Please consider subscribing. Uh, Share this channel with others. Let them know there's a channel out there that will run numbers for people. And sometimes we do kind of studies like this to show you how we have to be careful when we start talking about withdrawal rules, who's right, who's wrong, what the numbers actually show, what sequence of returns risk, and so on. Please like the video, share the video, and thanks for watching.